I am a great fan of Ricky Gervais. 99% of the stuff he does, I absolutely think he's a brilliant comedian. But I do find it disappointing that he chooses to go for vulnerable people like the trans community. I mean, they are already getting enough stick without being mocked and ridiculed in comedy routines. And I know he did caveat his performance by saying that he totally supports trans rights and that he's just making a joke. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It doesn't reflect his point of view. But nevertheless, it does feed into the current toxic atmosphere about trans issues. And I would just sort of draw a comparison. Can you imagine how we would feel if at the height of Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech, comedians made racist jokes? I don't think we just dismiss it and say it's just a joke. That would be fueling, a particular toxic racist narrative of Enoch Powell and others at the time. So I feel very uncomfortable about it.
Peter, back in 1968, which is the speech you refer to, was when it was made, there were all sorts of jokes being told. I mean, there were almost no limits on the jokes people could tell, and I've no doubt some people found those jokes offensive and some found them funny. But you talk about the trans community as being vulnerable. When I saw a pregnant trans man on a Calvin Klein Mother's Day advert a few weeks ago. I mean, that individual was also busy with pictures on TikTok. Not all trans people are vulnerable, surely.
Well, I mean, overall, we know the statistics that trans people, in particular trans women, are subject to much higher levels of prejudice than most other groups in society. They suffer more discrimination, more hate crime, and indeed more sexual assaults. And as a result, their mental health is poorer than the average person. So in those circumstances, I think we have to be very careful about making jokes, even if they're not intended to be harmful, because that can further fuel the sense of alienation, of marginalization and pressure that trans people feel. So I'm all in favor of being kind to people. I don't want to harm anybody or hurt anyone unnecessarily. I just think that there are so many other good topics, like Ricky Gervais, his big 1 hour special on animals was awesome. He was defending animals. He was taking a poke at those who abuse animals in farms, circuses, and medical laboratories. That was really comedy on the side of the victims. And I just wish he'd do more of that. Take a pot shot at transphobes and those who are fueling the anti-trans agenda.
Well, actually, you could argue that sketch either way, couldn't you? I mean, you could argue he was making a joke about those that were laughing in the sense of their prejudice.